Hello, this is Mark Sabatella from Outside Shore Music. In this video, I want to talk about a chord, a specific chord, a secondary dominant, the 5 of 5. In the key of G, we're going to be talking about an A7 chord. It's called 5 of 5 because, well, if we were in the key of D, A7 would be the 5 chord. And D is the 5 chord of G. So A7 is the 5 of the 5. And it's a fairly common chord to see. In fact, I haven't really done a statistical analysis on this, but I'm kind of finding that in the world of simple folk type songs that are mostly built on 1, 4, and 5, that extra 5 of 5, that dominant 2 chord, that A7 chord in the key of G, that is probably the most common, or one of the most common chords that we would add to that limited palette of just 1, 4, and 5. And I've always sort of noticed that this was true, and I've noticed people kind of finding opportunities to use that 5 of 5, figuring it out by ear, including musicians I know who are not especially like trained musicians, seem to be just finding this chord by ear, and it's always made me curious. How is this happening? What's going on? And I had this kind of interesting experience over the weekend where this particular song, My Grandfather's Clock, not part of my normal vocabulary as a jazz musician, but due to some strange quirk of fate, I played this song with 2 entirely different ensembles on Saturday, and one of them used that A7 chord, that 5 of 5, and the other one did not. It was actually in 2 different keys, but one of them had that 5 of 5 and the other one didn't, and it finally clicked a little bit what's happening here. So let me show you what's happening, and I don't know, you'll find this interesting. So the song goes like this. That is the basic A section of the song. The B section, all right, and that is where, if there was going to be an A7 chord, it would fall right there on the 3rd beat of the 3rd bar of that phrase. Right there. So what's happening is this is a phrase that's going to end on that 5 chord, D7, and we otherwise would have led to it with just a whole bar of the 1 chord. We would have a whole bar of the 1 chord leading to the end of the phrase on the 5 chord. And in this particular case, it just worked really well to put that A7 there. That G in the melody is the 7th of the chord, and it kind of fits nicely. Well, that's going to be a thing pretty often, that if you have a melody based on the 1 chord, scale degree 1 is going to be in the melody a lot. So if you have a case where scale degree 1 is in the melody, and then it's over a 1 chord leading to a 5 chord, well then that secondary dominant, that A7 chord, that dominant 2 chord, is going to fit scale degree 1 really well. And so, as I said, one of the groups did that, the other one did not, but I started to realize that this is something that we kind of hear. We hear something about that note in the melody making us think, ooh, I wonder if the A7 would work there. Now, I'm not saying everyone can do this or does do this, but I think this is what's going on that allows musicians who really are not trained musicians. This was a folk group doing, this song is from 1870 something, and this is a group of musicians doing this kind of music, the music that they grew up with because their grandparents grew up with it, and these aren't people with music degrees who have studied music theory. They're just hearing something, and they're hearing that this works because it wasn't written in on the sheet music, and yet they do that just sort of instinctually. And the thing is, it's not just that note in the melody, scale degree 1. It would also be this whole little line, 3, 2, 1, which happens a lot. All of those notes kind of fit that dominant chord. B would be the ninth, A would be the root, G is the seventh. And so one of the songs that they do where this happens on, that I've also noticed it, is this one here when the roll is called up yonder. And if we do this in the same key, we have the same situation of the third bar of the phrase. Oops. If I do it without the A7, but with the A7, so there's something about that type of melody, a melody where at the end of the phrase you have scale degrees 3, 2, 1, and it's sitting on the 1 chord getting ready to lead you to a 5 chord. I'm talking about this analytically, but I became aware of this phenomenon completely orally. We were working from music that was just lyrics and chord symbols, and everyone was just sort of hearing that there was an opportunity to do that and doing it, and I heard it too. And I knew that it was a secondary dominant, but I hadn't really thought through what made it work. What are we hearing that let us know that it was going to work there and maybe not work in some other case? So it's a lot of talk about one chord, but I find it really interesting because it ties together the concept of ear training and as it relates to both melody and relates to harmony. These things are intertwined, and this is perhaps the clearest example of this concept that I can come up with, and it just sort of struck me over the weekend while we were playing Grandfather's Clock.